Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to look at another horrific scenario with you. A double life. All religions and nationalities share the same perspective on family values. A family is a house in which all of its members, regardless of age or gender, should feel comfortable. As a result, love, respect, trust, and understanding should serve as its foundation. Families are the source of life. Parents instill vital values and traditions in their children by their own example. Many people attempt to have a robust and welcoming family that fosters a sense of belonging and harmony. However, not everyone succeeds. People who marry sometimes end up in unhealthy marriages. These ties harm not only them, but also those who are nearby, and they are often really vulnerable. Hollywood films depict perfect love filled with tenderness and sincerity. Beautiful and strong guys literally carry the woman they love in their arms. However, we all know that reality differs from what we see on screen. This narrative is about a tragic tragedy that occurred in a single Indian household. The happiness of one resulted in misfortune for the other. Jessica Patel was born on September 16, 1983. Her family lived in the Hindu community in Leeds, West Yorkshire, England. As the eldest child, she was raised to be industrious and obedient from a young age. The girl studied well and helped around the house. At the same time, he was cheery and peppy. Jessica had numerous friends, but she particularly valued Mitesh. The boy was 3 years older than her. Unlike her, he was humble and shy. The youngsters frequently played with one another. As she grew older, the girl developed, becoming increasingly lovely. Like many of her contemporaries, she hoped to fall in love with a worthy man and have a happy family with a bunch of kids, just like the characters in her favorite movies. Nonetheless, the young beauty's illusions did not detract from her intelligence and purpose. She desired independence and stability in her life. So in 2002, she enrolled at De Montfort University in Leicester. 4 years later, she pursued her pharmaceutical studies at the University of Manchester. Jessica resumed communication with Mitesh, who happened to study at the same faculty. While the young people did not see one another, the young man matured, becoming more confident and attractive. Their friendship eventually turned into amorous feelings. Mitesh lavished the girl with compliments and presents and was extremely attentive and loving. However, the brilliant streak was abruptly replaced by a darker one. Jessica faced a significant challenge in her life. Her mother died from an incurable sickness. The grief-stricken daughter was devastated by the death of a native. Mitesh supported his beloved in everything and did not leave anyone with negative ideas. During this time, the couple's connection grew stronger. Jessica revealed to her sister that she had finally found a reliable shoulder, and it appeared like her partner was wonderful in every way. Happy marriage. Mitesh Patel requested permission to marry the girl from her father in 2008, in accordance with all Hindu traditions. The father disliked the candidature of his daughter's future spouse. In addition, he thought it was too early to marry. However, Jessica persuaded him otherwise, and they married in July 2009. The bride ceremony took place in the backyard of her parents' home. The newlyweds' family life appeared to be just as gorgeous as their wedding. However, Mitesh's behavior quickly altered. He grew aloof and frigid. Jessica complained to her sisters that she was feeling lonely. Furthermore, the newlyweds' private life was far from ideal. They had no intimacy for nearly 10 months after their wedding. All of this was disturbing to the young wife. She couldn't figure out what had happened to her previous feelings and was looking for an issue with herself. Jessica graduated from university in 2010. She now had the opportunity to pursue a profession as a chemist. Simply put, live and be happy. Prosperity, greater education, and a loving husband. Except that Mitesh's attitude deteriorated. The man grew bossy and suspicious, controlling his wife's every movement. In February, her family had another loss. Her granddad became ill. His health was deteriorating day by day. The end was near. While the rest of his family surrounded him in his final days, his loving granddaughter paid him barely a few visits. Sister Manal later admitted that her husband did not allow Jessica to stay with her parents for an extended period of time or to travel frequently. The spouses had a disagreement on this point. young woman was perplexed as to what had prompted such skepticism, which she openly expressed to Mitesh. However, he became enraged and struck the unlucky woman in the face. The young people were from traditional Indian homes, where the head of the household had final say, so she had no option but to obey the man. Loneliness throughout marriage. Jessica once expressed her concerns to her family. She stated that she suspected her hubby of cheating. According to her, every time Mitesh spoke on the phone, he went to another room. He sometimes stayed up late and spent lengthy stretches of time alone. In 2012, the wife's assumptions were verified. She unexpectedly discovered love correspondence in her husband's phone. Jessica saw no other way to obtain support than to tell Mitesh's cousin everything. They had communicated effectively previously, so the young woman relied on assistance or advice to preserve her family. However, Mitesh's brother dismissed it, emphasizing that because her spouse was unfaithful, it was entirely her fault. Jessica was unable to gain understanding from her husband's family as a result of this predicament. Similarly, he banned her from seeking consolation in the arms of her sisters. It was obvious that Mitesh was hiding something. He was frightened of losing power and respect not just from his family, but also from the local community, so he limited his wife's communication in every manner imaginable, praying for a miracle. Mitesh and Jessica relocated to Linthorpe, a suburb of Middlesbrough in North Yorkshire, to be away from their family in 2014. The couple purchased a large property with many rooms and made modifications. A year later, they rented a building and launched their own pharmacy. Jessica hoped that the transfer would mark the beginning of a new life. Their relationship gradually improved. The only thing missing was the children. During their 6 years together, the woman was unable to conceive. Mitesh started to indicate that if this didn't happen, he'd have to leave her. So, in October 2015, she decided to try if. The first several efforts were unsuccessful. The woman got apprehensive and increasingly despondent. Taking hormones exacerbated her illness. Furthermore, instead of providing the expected care and warmth, Mitesh grew distant once more. He pretended to be a courteous spouse just in public, and when he got home, he refused to let go of his phone. He could snap. Nervous tension reached a breaking point, and the wife couldn't take it anymore and advised separation. She informed her husband that she was disappointed in him and unhappy in their marriage. The man's reaction astonished her. He began to reassure her that he loves her and that things will improve in time and that having a baby is the ideal way to enhance family bonds. Jessica believed his words. She hadn't heard anything like that in a long time, so after receiving a small amount of attention, she relaxed. Mitesh persuaded her that he wanted children and a complete family, but he didn't tell her that he had assigned his husband a unique responsibility in this regard. On May 9, 2018, the Patel couple received excellent news. 3 embryos were successfully fertilized. Their transfer was scheduled for next month. This indicated that if events progressed as planned, they would soon become parents. The expectant mother was overjoyed. She was overjoyed and rushed to tell her family everything. Everyone was looking forward to the replenishment, but Jessica was disappointed when it didn't arrive a few days later. Mysterious murder on the evening of May 14, 2018, emergency services received a call. Mitesh Patel, the caller, discovered his wife's dead body wrapped in duct tape at home. Gasping with delight, the man explained that he had left home to get something to eat, visit the boys at work, and pick up his laptop. When he returned home, he discovered his house had been burglarized and his wife was unconscious. Sobbing, he explained that the woman's skin was extremely chilly and dark stains could be visible on her neck. The dispatcher notified Patel that assistance was on its way in the form of a police unit. When cops got at the site, they discovered the woman's dead on the living room floor. Her wrists and ankles were wrapped with duct tape, and a grocery bag lay nearby. Unfortunately, the paramedics couldn't assist. Jessica Patel was murdered. Investigators had to determine what motivated such a terrible act. The house was turned upside down, and the wardrobe drawers were emptied. The crooks were definitely seeking for something to eat as they ripped apart the couple's mattress. Then jewelry and money were discovered missing. Everything pointed to robbery. Furthermore, the slain woman's husband believed that burglars had broken into the house. In this statement, Mitesh stated that on the terrible day, he worked his morning shift, went to the gym, and then returned home. After work, his spouse returned at 7 p.m. The man offered to go buy some pizza and left the residence around 7:44 p.m. A CCTV camera at a nearby pizzeria allowed us to authenticate his words. It captured Patel placing his order. He was polite to the personnel and exuded a carefree demeanor. Before leaving the establishment, he attempted to phone his wife to inform her that he would be returning shortly, but was unable to reach her. Mitesh decided to stop at a pharmacy on his way out, so he lingered a little longer than expected. He got home at 8:50 p.m. to find a horrific image, strewn goods, and a chained wife. Neighbors were also stunned by what had occurred. The couple's neighborhood was known for its prosperity and serenity. Throughout the neighborhood's history, nothing criminal had occurred. Jessica's autopsy found that her death was caused by strangling. The attacker first used a bag, then his bare hands. Finally, possibly to ensure the victim's death, he used an electrical cord as a ligature. Since no evidence of forcible entry was discovered, the inquiry presented an initial version. The victim recognized the perpetrator and led him inside the house herself, a distraught widower. When Jessica's family learned of her death, her father and sisters immediately arrived to assist her heartbroken husband. It's no surprise that during such difficult times, families must band together. They tried to console Mitesh as best they could. Despite the fact that the relationship between the spouses was not always easy, the deceased relatives embraced the distraught son-in-law and attempted to find the perfect words. They were in great anguish and agonized in supposition. Who and why took away the family's favorite daughter, sister, and wife? Despite the robbery's obviousness, the cops appeared suspicious. After inspecting the house, the officers discovered several suspicious clues, which led to the criminal's arrest and trial. The application on the victim's cell phone, which monitors the owner's health, also played an important role in determining the truth. 3 days after Jessica's murder, the case's lead investigator phoned the victim's father, who was still near Mitesh. The official requested that the woman's relatives return home so that the investigation may proceed without interruption. He promised to provide further details later. Detectives were about to detain the case's suspect, Mitesh Patel. There were valid causes for his arrest. During the house search, a hard disk from a video security camera that was positioned in front of the front entrance was discovered. The device was in a suitcase beneath the bed. It was then discovered that someone had destroyed it just minutes before the police arrived. The next discovery was a photograph concealed beneath the double bottom of the couple's nightstand. It depicts Mitesh sharing an embrace with another man named Amit. Furthermore, footage from a camera mounted in a house across the street revealed that on May 14th, only the pair entered and exited the Patel family home. The camera shows Mitesh returning home at 3:30 p.m. and never going again. Jessica did arrive at the conclusion of the workday, parked her car, and entered the building at 7 p.m. At 7:44 p.m., the man left for the pizza place. They returned at 8:50 p.m., only they were in the lens, which meant one thing. Mitesh was the suspected perpetrator, a mystery hidden behind 7 seals. Patel became the main suspect, but there was no hard evidence against him. So the investigators continued their inquiry. During the investigation, Mitesh's main secret was exposed, which he had carefully hidden from family and friends. Jessica was correct in suspecting her husband of infidelity. However, it is unclear whether she correctly assumed that her husband preferred only men. Marriage to a woman appears to have been necessary to conceal one's true orientation. The happiness of Jessica, who'd been by his side for many years, was the least important to him. Mitesh met Amit 2 years after the wedding, but unlike him, he did not disguise his inclinations, despite the fact that he too was born into an Indian household. The men quickly liked each other and began meeting in secret. While on a business vacation, the attractive spouse spent time with his lover. Amit moved to Australia in 2016, but their romance remained. Mitesh had a bad idea. They planned to become same-sex parents by using Jessica's embryos and a surrogate in addition to starting it. In addition to starting a family, Patel disclosed in his statement that his spouse was having IVF treatment. When he asked Amit if they would be together after that, Amit said that it all depends on the outcome of the treatment. While speaking, Mitesh made it apparent that their connection would eventually be free of barriers. In a recent communication, he wrote that Jessica's days are numbered. It was eventually discovered that the dishonest husband was using medicines that impaired fertility. He did all of this to avoid having sexual connections with his wife. The investigation has completed. The investigators were also able to reconstruct Mitesh's search history. The man's online requests were remarkably eloquent: how to get rid of his wife, a Hindu funeral, and how to receive insurance benefits for a spouse's murder. In truth, Jessica's life was insured for +2 million. Following her death, her husband intended to cash in the insurance policy and use the profits to purchase a house in Australia. In recent weeks, Patel has been looking for a suitable property. He wanted to provide a comfortable environment for the new family and meticulously planned for it. During the investigation of the spouse's cell phones, in addition to the denunciatory correspondence, the investigators concentrated on an application that tracked the number of steps taken by the smartphone's owner throughout the day. Jessica hadn't moved since 8:04 p.m. However, within 15 minutes, her phone had already registered 14 steps. Apparently, these were her final motions, or someone simply relocated the gadget. Mitesh's phone indicated high physical activity levels just before his wife's death. He had a greater heart rate than usual. Between 7:44 and 8:30 p.m., there were rapid stair ascents and descents. Apparently, at this point, he was staging a burglary by throwing things around, and before contacting 911, Patel went upstairs to hide evidence: a surveillance camera's hard drive. Police discovered stolen jewelry, £25,000, and a pair of gold bars in the couple's pharmacy safe, all of which the widower said went missing during the burglary. There was also a skein of duct tape, similar to the one used to wrap the victim's arms and legs. The tapes torn in matched the one taken as evidence from Jessica's body. Mitesh apparently went by work the evening following the pizza party to get rid of the proof. Although the man had planned the crime for several years, he was incredibly reckless in carrying it out, leaving a mess everywhere. There was no question about his culpability. Furthermore, genetic analysis of the material obtained from under the dead woman's fingernails revealed the spouse's DNA. There were also scratch scars on Mitesh's neck, which he made no effort to conceal, stating that he had fallen, the trial and its aftermath. Patel refused to accept his guilt throughout either the investigation or the ensuing trial. He stated that he did speak with Amit, but everything that occurred was a complete coincidence. The trial of the accused lasted 3 weeks. The image of what transpired has been established. The husband attacked his wife the moment she entered the house. She struggled back and scraped, but the forces were unbalanced. Mitesh had first planned to kill his wife using a different way. A substantial amount of insulin was discovered in her blood, which may have been lethal, but much later than the offender anticipated. An insulin overdose causes unconsciousness and eventual death. However, anything may have happened at this time. Eventually, the criminal strategy could have been foiled. Mitesh planned to kill Jessica off by placing a bag over her head. To ensure his wife's death, he strangled her with his hands before using a cord. As physical evidence, the prosecution presented empty ampoules discovered in Patel's laptop bag. He took 20 minutes to kill a woman who had been by his side for years and lived in the same shelter. The dude was quite harsh to her. He then tied up his wife's hands and feet to make it appear like a robbery. After that, he drove to the pizza shop as if nothing had occurred, even calling her. Jessica's relatives couldn't believe what they'd heard. Both sides of the family were in total shock. No one would listen or trust Jessica when she asked for assistance and support. No one stepped in to try to figure out what was going on in the family, save perhaps Jessica's sisters, who could do little because they were in an unequal position. The jury took 2 hours to reach a verdict. On December 5, 2018, the court condemned Mitesh Patel to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Finally, the judge stated that the individual did not appear to be remorseful. In all likelihood, Mitesh felt terrible for himself. The family is unlikely to ever forgive the man for the sin he did. Every day they pray for and remember Jessica. According to Hindu mythology, her soul must be reborn because she suffered greatly in life and was sad, but remained a decent person. She will be rewarded in the next incarnation. At least that is comforting to her loved ones, who have nothing else to do but mourn and wish for a reunion after death.